to the neighborhood where it feels like your childhood. Your friendly neighborhood vibe gives it her all, bringing you the local haul. All kinds of comics, classic and new, Marvel, DC, and indies too. Readers and creators in unity, welcome to our community.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Nerdy Neighborhood and welcome to your Friendly Neighborhood Comic Show. I'm your host, Lauren, your Friendly Neighborhood Bi, and it is really great to be back here live tonight with you all for a little surprise live show. We're getting lost in the Nerdy Neighborhood. We got great crossover coming up. It's going to be a really great time. We're just gonna get right to it, but I did want to mention as a quick reminder, if you don't keep up with the channel or you don't get notifications on YouTube for some reason, be sure to check out all our Cooking with Creatives episodes that have come out recently. We pretty much have 1 to 2 every single week. Lots of great creators with campaigns, Patreons, all these great ways you can support them. So if you haven't caught up on the latest of those, be sure to check those out. Lots of great advice as well if you're an aspiring comic creator. We've had interviews with editors recently, writers, artists, all that great stuff. So if you're aspiring and looking for advice, tips on the industry, those Cooking with Creatives episodes are great for that as well. But without further ado, let's go ahead and just get started with our neighborhood check-in. Before we bring on our guests, we have Kaiser Jose in the chat being first. What is up? Good to see you. We got Eric, aka the Neighborhood Punisher, here with us today. He did have something good thing I found in the neighborhood. I was worried I'd get lost. Love it. We got Bolly Rock here in the chat, which if you haven't seen one of our recent Cooking with Creatives episodes, we talked with the By the Horns team, or most of them, Marcus Nasso and Jason Murr, and Bolly Rock was on there with us asking questions, having a great time. So if you haven't already, check that one out. We got Ian joining here. What is up, Ian? I have no clue what time it is in your time zone, but thank you so much for being here. It's so good to see you. And I'm sure we'll see lots more people come to live chat in a little bit. But until then, I want to welcome back my co-host of the award show that we did, the Neighborlies. And I think we might have done a live show here or there in between. I can't remember at this point. But I wanted to welcome back Chase. What's up, Chase?
Howdy, neighbors.
Hey, how you doing? Doing good today?
Oh, yeah. How are you doing?
Good. Just making sure those headphones of yours are working. I know you said they're still putting it together, but at least the red matches. I got the red shades. You got the red headphones. Like we're on point.
We did that on purpose.
We planned it, guys. We coordinated for once. Well, thanks for being on here to host with me again, Chase. It's always so fun having you on. You're such a big part of the Nerdy Neighborhood, both on YouTube and Twitter and the Discord.
Great. I love being part of it. I'm glad you keep inviting me.
Yeah, anytime. Well, I know you all are really waiting here for our very, very special guest. I've been trying to get him on for quite a while now, and obviously he's super busy, so he's sparing some gracious time with us to be on tonight. There's a reason I'm wearing this shirt. We are bringing on Chris of Lost in Comics. What's up, Chris?
Yeah.
Howdy. How's everybody doing?
Good. Thank you so much for making the time and coming on tonight. I know you've got already a lot of stuff planned with Lost in Comics this week itself.
We do. It's a busy week. It's a busy month, year, everything. Just busy life. But I'm the neighbor that is always looking over the fence, Lauren. I'm always looking at you like the was it Home Improvement? Wilson, the Wilson, just kind of with the eyes over the fence.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So as you're going through your thing on your channel, I'm always lurking around and watching and looking at everybody, and I appreciate you having me on the show, and it's a great. I love the neighborhood.
Yeah,
anytime. I'm a little struck myself,
What was that?
Ian said celebrity appearance. I thought, no, I'm a little starstruck myself.
Ian, what's going on, Ian?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like I should be looking over my fence at everything you do, Chris.
No.
Like, always
Absolutely not.
watching because you guys are the pros over there. You and Pouch.
Well, I can't speak for the pouch, but I do want to show this real quick, Lauren. I know we're right at the
Yeah, do
beginning,
it.
but
Go for
this
it.
is the Good Neighbor
Oh,
from.
Ah,
This is a biography on the man himself, the
yeah.
Good Neighbor, Mr. Fred Rogers. Um, but I love the idea of the neighborhood that you put together here. I know you're super busy and you haven't been able to do as much as you'd like to do, but I just want you to know, like I said, I'm always kind of watching and where I can, scrolling through Twitter and looking through your videos and just what you do, the positivity that you promote. I love it. And that's what we're all about at Lost in Comics as well. So
Mhm.
I just want to say that and tell you how much I love the show and I love the whole concept of your channel.
No,
And I
thank
and I
you.
love I love being a neighbor.
Yeah, that's one thing I really love about just the concept too is that everybody's a neighbor. Whether you've been on the show, the live chat, you just follow on Twitter quietly because you don't want to talk to anybody, or you're in the Discord, what have you. Like everybody is a part of the community, unless you're an actual asshole. But we don't have that happen here.
That's
yeah.
great. Yeah.
We
Keep
are
it. Yeah.
focusing on the positive.
I
Well,
feel
I
like
won't let you.
everybody in the
Oh,
Discord feels like they can just talk and say, whatever they want, and just be just like with friends. I haven't heard anybody like get
Mhm.
uncomfortable or anything on there. It's great. I love it.
we got a couple of guys like that in our chats, and Kaiser Jose is one of them. And he says it right there, except me, I'm the negative guy over at LNC. We've got comic guy Steve, Grabs Granite. I mean, these guys they're pretty big jerks, and they don't mind me saying that out loud. But
I
it's
feel
it, it's huh?
that's their brand from what I see. That's just them.
It is their brand, and you know what? It's nice when you can, and I'm joking around, but when you can get those type of personalities, blend them all together with people like
Yeah.
yourself, like me, like Chase, and we can all agree on certain things and keep the world moving forward instead of all kind of sticking in our corners and I don't like that person because of this or whatever. So
You
Yep.
don't
that's
have
just
to agree.
yeah.
You just like them. Yes.
Exactly. Exactly. That's something I feel it's just lost in our world. No
Yeah,
pun
I agree.
intended, but
Yep. Ian said he loves your back cup or flames. So same thing.
cheers,
Uh,
Ian.
and Mason from Comics and Crosses is here. Good to see you, Mason. I haven't talked to him in a bit, but we both get busy as well. If you guys haven't checked out his channel, you really should. He probably has one of the most unique channels, and I don't say that in like a
For
weird
sure.
way. Like it truly is. The perspectives he has are phenomenal, and the insight he has on comics and religion and Christianity and all that. So even if you're not religious, check it out because it's really fascinating stuff what he does. But all that said, Chris, it's your first time here on the show. A lot of our neighbors know you. Some of them know of you, but haven't really caught your show for whatever reason. I wanted to hear
Hmm.
a little bit about, kind of how you started out, the Lost in Comics, because I know the story, and probably Kaiser Jose does, but I don't think the entire
Sure.
neighborhood knows just your little snippet there.
Yeah, of course. I'll try to do the condensed version of it because I've been known to go on and on about this origin story. Um, we're talking YouTube, right? Or are we talking like comic origin or just
I was
both?
thinking the channel, but if you
The
want to
channel.
weave in some of the comic origin, go for it.
Let's do both, and I'll try to be brief. But um, always loved the TV shows and the movies, especially Batman, obviously, right? So I'm always
Mhm.
constantly talking about Batman. But loved Batman, loved the Marvel movies as they were coming out. I didn't really grow up with comics. Nobody really gave me access to comic books. My dad was a very much of a workaholic and
Mm.
didn't it just wasn't like a whole lot of time to like play, and it was like work, 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 work all the time. Um, and so I feel like maybe I missed out on some of my childhood. So that's why I'm
Yeah.
a big kid now. um, but all of that love, especially for Batman, the Batman movies, is what really pushed me one day to. I told my wife, I was like, I want to go to a comic store, and this was like, I guess this is about 6 years ago.
Mhm.
And she was like, "Yeah, that's cool or whatever." She's like, "Is it expensive?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I don't. I've heard that there's like dollar comics and stuff like that." Um,
Mhm.
So I walked into the comic shop, asked the person at the counter. I was like, "Hey, I want to get into comics. Like, what do I have to do? What's the process here? What am I looking at?" Like, it was very overwhelming, as you guys know, if you ever for the first time when you walk into a comic shop. Looked like a wall like this behind me. Even worse, right? And I was kind of overwhelmed. I asked the guy, how do I do it? He said, what characters do you like? And I said, well, I like Batman and the Ninja Turtles. Those were the first two that I mentioned to him. And so he took me over to a Ninja Turtle series that was going. It wasn't the ongoing IDW series. It was. I couldn't even tell you what it is now. I just remember I want to say they were in space. And I saw the cover and it looked cool, but it was like an issue number 3 or 4. It was not a number 1. And that was his recommendation. And he kind of just like gave me the book and kind of walked off. And I was like, all right. So looking down at the shelf, there were some dollar comics, and there was a facsimile edition of The Dark Knight Returns. So I saw it, Frank Miller, issue number 1. It's a $1 issue, reprint, of course, right? So I didn't know what the heck it was. I just picked it up, $1 book. And so I got those 2 books. I came home. I actually read the Turtles first, and I was like, "Shoot, this sucks!" Like, I had no idea what it was. Like, the story was right in the middle of an arc, and I was lost. I was like, "These are not the Turtles that I know." Like, there was even new characters in there, and I was like, "Yeah, this is weird." But then I opened up.
Was that the first time you got lost in a comic?
That was the first time I got literally lost in the comic. Oh gosh.
Alien Triceratops or whatever.
What was that?
An alien race of Triceratops or something like that. That's the turtle spot.
Yeah. I have no idea what that was that I picked up. Like I said, I don't even know what I did with it in my collection. And it was one of my first ones. I should have kept it like kind of like a memento, but I didn't. But I'll never forget picking up The Dark Knight Returns and sitting here at the kitchen table, and I just started consuming that. And I was like, oh my God, like what? Like when I finished it, my mind was just like, it was blown. It was incredible. I'll never forget the feeling closing that book, and I was hooked. Like I was like, oh my gosh, like
right.
As being a Batman fan, reading that, it was everything that I wanted. And I had to know the rest of the story. I didn't even know there was a rest of the story. Kind of like left me at the end, and I was like, what do I do? What do I do next? Right. So, long story short, that's what got me in. From that point on, that was 6 years ago, 7 years ago, maybe. Here I am now. Right. So there's been a lot to that journey.
Batman movie.
I'm sorry, Chase. Say again.
Nolan Batman movie that you like? The Christopher Nolan. Batman
yeah, those are definitely my favorites.
Okay, that's where the turn got you then. It was just like dark and gritty, just like what you would like. Okay.
Exactly. And I mean, I've been a fan of pretty much all of those movies. I mean, even the Christopher Nolan, the '89 Batman, the Adam West Batman. I mean, anything that was Batman, I was consuming it, except for the comics. You know, I'd watched the animated Batman. I'd just done all of it except comics. I had just never dove into until this experience, and it was like a baptism for me, and I totally changed my life. And I've been a comic pastor ever since. You know, bringing people into bringing them into the flock, into the folds. You know, but which leads to, so I got into comics, and I brought my buddy Oscar into comics. So if you guys remember at the beginning of Lost in Comics, it was Oscar and I that started the show. He was a huge Walking Dead fan. So I remember telling him one day, I said, hey, come with me to the comic shop. You should come check out the store. And he's like, what are you doing, bro? Like, why are you going to a comic shop? And I said, I've read a couple of comics and they're really good. And I knew he liked The Walking Dead. So I said, hey, let's go check out and see if they have any Walking Dead books for you. Cause I've heard that that's based off of a comic book. And so we went to the comic shop. Sure enough, we went to another shop, by the way, cause I was not very impressed with the first one we went to. and I said, "Hey, this is my friend. You know, he likes The Walking Dead. Like, what is there?" And they kind of showed him some books, and then he got hooked onto comics via Walking Dead.
Mhm.
Um, and for a couple of years, Oscar and I, we had the type of we were drivers at the time. That was our job. We drove all day
Mhm.
for the same company. We drove for FedEx. Don't work there anymore, but we were FedEx
Mhm.
drivers. And literally all day we'd have a Bluetooth piece in our ears, and we'd be talking about comic books. So we'd read, and we would be on our shift, and we would just be talking about comics and disagreeing about this story and that story, and but just kind of growing our knowledge and sharing our love for this new thing that we had found. And of course, this is all before I wasn't even on Twitter. I wasn't on Instagram. This is all before
Mhm.
the channel. And we started doing this thing where at the end of the year in December, I would go over to his house. We'd go upstairs, we'd have some drinks, and he and I would do our own little comic award show, just me and him,
Mhm.
some drinks, and we'd go over our favorite comics. And I'm very organized, very meticulous, so I had like a whole little, I sent him a thing like, hey, pick out your favorite this and your favorite, favorite creator, your favorite artist, your favorite. And so we would do that. He and I would present them to each other, and we would just drink, have a good time. And um, I, we did that maybe a couple of years. Well, the next year came around. I went over to his house, and he takes me upstairs, and he's got a camera facing a table there. Got some lights on, and I like looked at him, and I was like, "Bro, what are we doing here?" Like, it's like that he wanted to make love to me or something, like on camera. He's like go ahead. He's like, go ahead and bend over here, Chris. And so he said, like, he's like, let's do this. Let's put this on YouTube. Like, we do this. We've been doing this the last couple of years. He's like, it'd be really fun to like just put our thoughts and our this little award show that we're doing on YouTube. And I'm like, yeah, nobody's gonna watch that. Like who's gonna watch that? Like, and to be quite honest, like I wasn't involved in the comic community. I didn't know that there was such a large comic community.
Mhm.
And we did that little video. We're very boring, very like monotone. And it was like, yes, my artist of the year is, whatever. And then I'd be like, what do you think, bro? Like we're very monotone. Um, and it got, I want to say in the first couple of months, like that little video got like 200 views, and it was like
Mhm.
it was a big deal for us. I was like, what? Like who's watching this? I thought it was gonna be like
Right.
me and my brother and my mom and my wife and Oscar's family um and I think just seeing the amount of views and then seeing some comments that were left on the thing, it was like, man, I guess there are other people that like comic books because I had like I just had no idea. And that's how we started, and from there we kind of got a game plan, and our whole point was calling ourselves Lost in Comics. It was we would work all day, we'd deal with the issues of the world, right? And but it was like when you
Mhm.
come to Lost in Comics, you are literally, we want you to be lost and immersed into this world of these characters. And the feeling that Oscar and I got when we were working and talking on the Bluetooth to each other, and just kind of like consuming, our minds were consumed with comic books. That's what we wanted to make the channel, and a place for people to come and get lost. And it came right at the perfect time. We started right at 2020, at right before
Yep.
covid
Right. Yep.
covid hit, and it was like, all right, this is is like the perfect mission statement, especially for the times. So,
Mhm.
and here we are. That was 3 years ago. Here
Yeah,
we
I
are.
love your guys' older videos. I've watched a couple of them, and yeah, I totally see what you're saying with the production quality and even just, but it's so endearing because you've come so far. And as people have learned, Oscar had to step away and all that, but he still pops in every once in a lifetime, which is always super nice
Yeah.
to see, because you guys always obviously have just some of the best chemistry out there. But yeah, I'm so glad you shared that story, because again, I'm sure others have heard it on your show here and there. But I think it's really cool just look back, like you said, and see where you came from. And we cracked it down to your first time getting literally lost in a comic. So can't be that.
I like it was only 6 years ago. You know, I've been reading comics since I was a child. Like, since I can read, I remember reading comics.
Yeah.
And there's one part of me that thinks that I have more of a comic knowledge than you or than Lauren. You guys have been reading such a shorter period of me, but you consume so much so fast. Like, I don't think the time period matters, you know, time frame, as long as once you start liking them, you gain that knowledge and you're right there. Like, your show's great. I could have never guessed when I first started watching your show that you're only a couple of years into reading comics.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy.
I run across so many people like that, like Lauren, a ton of them, a ton of people that are doing YouTube that are, they've become obsessed with comic books, just like we have, just like I have. And I think for me, like, it was very important when we started doing YouTube. Like, I didn't want to just be like this, like, I didn't know what the heck I'm talking about. Like, and I feel like I wanted to be like, I consider myself a student of comics. Like, even now to this day, like, I'm constantly learning. I'm reading the freaking Swamp Thing right now from Alan Moore, which is just an unbelievable.
Good.
Oh, it's so freaking good. Like, it's unbelievable. And I'm reading it, and I finally understand, you know, ever since I started reading comics, I've heard people talk about this run, and I'm finally getting into it. And that's what I love about, like I said, being a student of comic books. It's like you're constantly learning, and you're reading these creators that you've heard about. Alan Moore, I mean, I've read some stuff, obviously The Watchmen, which I love, but this is just, it's another level. It's a whole other animal, and
it's
beautiful.
a good example of, you can't judge comics by like their character or the cover, because Swamp Thing.
Yes.
Like, you see it and you're like, who's going to care about Swamp Thing? But Alan Moore's Swamp Thing is still considered one of the greatest concise stories. Like,
Yeah.
It's so good. And comics, like, you just take any D level character and get a good team behind them, and you can make gold. I love comics. You never know what's going to happen with them. It's one of the best attributes.
That Alan Moore run is it's literature. Like, it's not, and it's not to downplay any other comics, or, you know, I'm not. It's just the fact that when you read the way it's poetic. Like, it's the way he describes, you know, there's an intimate moment between him and his love, and they basically they're making love without having sex. But, you know, and it sounds so grotesque when you say it, right? Spoiler alert, but he takes a piece off of his body and gives it to her, and she eats it. And it's like they go into this, you know, other worlds where they're connected, right? And that all those scenes and those panels and the way he describes it, it's just like, what the hell am I reading? Like, this is so good. Like, and I'm like, I feel like I'm high while I don't even need a drug for it. You know, like, this is so good, man.
Moore, Gayson, Morrison, they're just, they have a way, like, it is almost literature, their way of writing. And I wouldn't even consider any of the three my favorite comic writers, but you can't not acknowledge that they are some of the best comic writers. Like, they're so talented. But, I like my comics maybe a little less serious. I love a good serious comic, but I like in my comics.
Yeah, for sure.
I completely agree, and I still need to finish the Moore run of Swamp Thing. I read Ron V's when it came out last year or so, and that one I really liked as well, because I feel like Ron V is the next person as of late that really understands how to write that kind of poetic Swamp Thing. You said, Chris, I completely agree, and that's what makes Swamp Thing so good, is you have to write him in that kind of poetic way, even if it's a little different. As long as it's still poetic and it's well done, it's going to work. And so I'm really excited to read Alan Moore's stuff. I wanted to catch up on the live chat real quick. We've had such a great discussion. Jeff popped in. He's driving back home from work, needed this. Glad we could give you some more content, some stuff to listen to, Jeff. Always good to see you.
Jeff.
Kaiser said, in reference to Lost in Comics, his older episodes are totally rewatchable. I get caught up on the books I missed out, which also that's a great point. And I want to say this to people that create content as well. If you make content, you're like, man, it didn't get any views in the first month. This is a bunch of crud. Leave it there. Like, unless there's a really big reason you feel the need to remove it, leave it. Because even if it's just one or two other people, there are people that will rewatch it and get something out of it. So that's really cool. Ian says, I'm sure Chris uses the Speed Force to read comics. Chris, can you teach me how to do that?
Yeah, it's a loving wife and an understanding wife to let me just kind of trap myself in the room on Wednesdays. That's really what it comes down to. And I do because I have two kids, my wife and my life and my work and the show, and I literally will just close the door, and like I said, she lets me do it, and she's so gracious, and I know I have a mission when I'm in this room, and I feel lost. Like I really do get lost in here, and I just start reading and I do it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard not to with that backdrop alone.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's it's not easy.
Emmett says, oh, it's this Chris. Where's Chris Evans? I don't know, Emmett. That's your partner, man. Get your partner in crime in here. I don't know what to tell you.
Sorry to disappoint you, Emmett.
I'll allow it. Okay, well, Emmett, you can thank Ian because he brought up Swamp Thing Green Hell #3, which is Jeff Lemire, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, which Emmett loves. If you guys don't know anything about Emmett, please know he loves Lemire. Like underscore bold, italicized, like he loves Jeff Lemire. This book's been really good. Have either one of you been reading that one, the Swamp Thing Green Hell?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
you'll
and
love
I am
it,
also
Chase.
yeah. And I am also I consider Emmett a Lemire brother because I have absolutely fallen in love with Jeff Lemire's writing.
I think it's someone who writes literature. Jeff Lemire.
Yes.
Did you finally Essex County, Chris?
Yes. Yeah. I'm sad right now because the show just started and I've been looking everywhere, even if it's illegal. Like I want to watch it, and I can't. I can't. Well, it's only being aired in Canada, so I know. So they have it's being aired on it's called CBC in Canada, and I tried to get the. You're not allowed. You're an American, so.
Damn.
Man, I know it's exclusive to Canada, and Jeff Lemire is believes he's like I think he helped direct it or produce it or something.
He was at least a producer. I'm positive of that.
I know he was on set and doing the whole thing, man. So
that got me. Like Essex County gave me crazy emotions, man. Jeff Lemire can do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, and Green Hell is no exception. It's really, he's so versatile in what he does. He can hit you with a very heartfelt, grounded family story. And then, next time you're doing a Descender book and you're in space in a sci-fi, still you have the same outcome where you're like shedding a tear by the end of the book, or he does a great job with his horror stuff. You got Gideon Falls and, of course, the Swamp Thing Green Hell is kind of in that vein, and it's epic what he does, and he the different ways he finds to tell stories, and they can impact you in different ways. So good. He and Brubaker being my favorite writer of all time, but those two, man, like those are my guys, man. Love them.
Yeah, I think there's a difference, and this might sound pretentious, but I think there's a difference between great writers and then great storytellers, kind of like as well as in like music, right? There's great singers, there's great musicians that can play, but then there's great songwriters, right? I've been obsessed with Fleetwood Mac recently, so sorry, but that's why I'm obsessed with songwriting. So I feel like Jeff Lemire is a great storyteller, right? Obviously he's a fantastic writer, that is not in question, but on top of that he reaches another level because kind of like you said, he can tell any story. And he really seems to thrive on his creator-owned stuff the most, which I'm going to be honest, you don't see that with every creator. There are a lot of creators that are fantastic at what they do, but they're actually really well suited for like Marvel, DC, like you name it, a franchise of some sort, whether they create or otherwise, which is great. And I think they should know that and stick with it if that's their thing. But Lemire, I think, shines the most in his own independent stuff. So full kudos to him there.
I think he's a great. He'd be a great storyboard artist, but I feel like he like sketched up everything he wanted his thing to look like, and he realized that the emotion he got out of his little storyboards were good enough. That's like my whole idea behind Lemire. Is like, like it looks good. It looks good enough for his story. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
but I think he'd be a good storyboard artist. Like on top of everything else he's good at. Like
Yeah.
how like in Top 10, Xander Cannon did all the storyboards, and then Gene Ha came in, drew it. Like, you know,
Yeah.
that's a job. Like he'd be good at that too. Crazy. He's just so talented.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's incredible, and now he's dipping his feet into TV. And I don't know if you guys have seen the first season of Sweet Tooth on Netflix, but I mean that's another Lemire story, and the first season was incredible. Second season coming here in the next few months, I think September, October. But I mean, he's just so multi-talented. The arts, the writing, the storytelling, and like I said, now he's doing the stuff with with TV, and just impressive guy.
Yeah, Emma in the chat here said he's a showrunner as well, which that
There you
comes
go.
with a whole different level with TV and stuff too. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean he's basically building a Lemire verse, but we're not gonna call it that, guys. Don't hashtag that. We're not gonna start that for him. We're not gonna subject him to that cult kind of following, but you know.
Yeah.
Emma is excited. Season 2 trailer came out today. Did
Oh,
you watch
April.
that, Chris?
Oh, next month. I have not, and I'm not a big trailer I really stay away from trailers completely.
That's
I
fair.
don't watch them. So, but that is
Yeah.
cool, and I didn't realize it was just in April. That's crazy. It's next
I
month.
I actually haven't watched it. I read the story and I love the story. I don't know how it's going to transition over to a show.
It's
but-
surprisingly, because you those characters are very unique with the animal qualities and that they have in the book, and they do a really good job in the show, like to capture that.
Is that the is Gus like the one that you just love throughout the story?
Say again,
Just
Chase.
Gus, is that the name
Gus.
of one of the?
Yeah, Gus is the main character. Yeah, the deer boy.
Yeah.
And
Dear boy.
and he's
Who's the? What is he like a badger, or he like digs underground to sleep? Why can't I think of his name?
he's a deer. He
The one that,
like what are we talking?
Just fall back on he's a deer, man.
Is he a mole? What are you asking?
yeah, he's the one that's like he doesn't talk much, but like he hibernates through some of the comics. Like he digs a hole and lives in his hole.
That's
Okay.
another. Yeah,
I
there's
love-
another.
Yeah, I'll have to
Can't
check it
think of
out.
his
I
name.
don't know transition over, but people like it. So I'll check it out.
It's really good. I recommend it for sure.
Yeah. I wanted to mention something in the chat. There's like a slight discussion going on, which I think is interesting. Kaiser mentioned Primordial, which is by Jeff Lemire, was a dud for them, but May's book was amazing. And Ian followed up with, I won't call Primordial a dud as I love the art, but story-wise, I have no idea what's going on in that book. And I just want to touch on that because I haven't read it. So full disclosure, I have not read that book. I did read May's book, enjoyed it. But this is a great thing that I really like to mention to people is you can love a creator. They can even be your favorite creator ever, and they can still have projects you don't like or that don't resonate with you. And so I think it's really great to say, yeah, I didn't care for this one, but I did still enjoy this. And that doesn't have to take away from how much you really like a creator and their work or otherwise, you know?
As far as Primordial goes, it's Sorrentino. Was that the artist
Mm-hmm.
of Primordial? The art was crazy good. The story, it was just like choppy. I enjoyed it. I liked Leica. I like the characters, but it was very choppy. But the art really did save it. As far as May's book, I think I've told enough people it's no surprise here. I lost a child, and so I couldn't bring myself to read May's book. I figured I'll read it one day, but I knew what it was about, or the idea of it was about. So I just couldn't bring myself to read it. I had it pre-ordered, and then I stopped. I kind of read a little synopsis, but everyone seems to really like it.
Yeah, May's book is incredible, and I'm sorry to hear that, Chase. yeah, definitely will bring you to tears if. So yeah, might want to stay away from that one. Uh, Primordial. It's funny. I love Lemire, but that is one book that I was reading, and I read, I think, to issue 3, and I also was kind of frustrated with it. And I think it's one of those books that I think reads a lot better in trade. Um,
Yeah,
it
straight.
was, yeah, it was very difficult keeping up with that book month to month, trying to consume it, take it in, and then try to review
Mhm.
it. And so I definitely can relate to that frustration. I did get the trade, which I have not done the reread on, but um, yeah, of all of the Lemire books, that is one that I can honestly say that yeah, I didn't love it immediately like some of the other stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
And also fully done by him. He didn't do the art and stuff in it. It seems like
that's the
his book
problem. Yeah.
doubles up on is always the one like Underwater Welder. They're always just.
Man, I love
So,
that book. Man, yes.
I
I
got
just
catch
recently.
up on my Lemire library, I guess, from the sounds of it.
Oh
I
my
still have
gosh.
Descender. I have the Descender trades. Haven't read them yet. Got 'em for Christmas. That's how behind I am.
I haven't read the Cinder yet either. It's okay. You can't get to everything.
Yeah,
I know.
for sure. As much as I want to, I can't.
Yep. Yeah, Mazebook will definitely bring you to some tears. I don't even have children currently, and I still was like bawling. I don't remember what issue it is. Someone in chat might know, but there's a certain issue of Mazebook that I think it was early, like issue 1 through 3, somewhere in there where the ending like really got you. Like something clicked and you're like, oh my God, like there was something. And that dang red string, that thing.
That
That
string.
will haunt your
Yeah.
dreams, man. That red string after you read that. Want to say hi to Grabs. Grabs is here. Good to see ya. If you
Grabs.
guys don't know, Grabs does the Midlife Vices channel with someone Chris mentioned earlier, Comic Guy Steve. Be sure to check them out on YouTube. Subscribe if you haven't already. I know Grabs had a channel at one point as well for himself doing budgeting stuff. I don't know if he's still doing that. So, check that out too. But I think
That
their main
was
thing's been like Vices.
Yeah,
So
that was a mistake. Not continuing the Grabs Granite channel. Just real quick, just gonna throw it out there. Because Grabs Granite, he had started a really cool, very unique budgeting channel. So his whole thing was
Mhm.
how to collect comics on a budget, and he had a very tight budget. His whole thing was, I'm gonna use YouTube as a sort of to keep me accountable. I'm only gonna spend X amount of dollars in this month, and I'm gonna
Mhm.
show you every single book that I pick up, how much it costs. Great, great idea for a channel, and also helps the person buying the comics, to keep some accountability with the community. And he said, and I quote, I will, if I don't, keep this budget, I will punish, I will punish myself. So
Yeah. Mhm.
I really promoted this punishment. I wanted him to do something,
Really
I wanted him. He lives on a farm. He's got pigs and chickens, and I wanted him to like get kicked by a pig. Like I wanted him like, huh? I wanted something that we could really all be entertained, get behind. But he did fail at his budget on one month, and his punishment was giving books to a library, I believe. So what kind
Mhm.
of a punishment is that, man? Like that only helps your soul to give others a need. How is that? How are you punishing yourself? Like
You
so.
know,
Anyway,
I think that's a neighborly approved punishment because, that's the kind
yeah,
of thing we do here. Unless, people elect Waller back in as the neighborhood HOA president, that we might start doing punishments like getting kicked by a pig in the head. Um, or Jeff said,
uh,
punch yourself in the pouch. So
exactly. Yes.
that's creative. Grab says, nope, I spend like a wild man now. See, that's why it stopped because no
Exactly.
more accountability. Didn't want it,
Hmm.
which I get it. I get it. I'm
Yeah, for
such
sure.
an ass for doing. Look what you've done, Chris. Look what you've done.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love
The
that you
person who
guys.
feels terrible when they give something to somebody or makes them smile. Like,
Right? Like, what kind of a punishment is that, man? Like, that's ridiculous.
take them, I
Well,
guess.
I wanted to go ahead and shift into a segment we haven't done in a while. So anybody that's watched the live shows has probably missed this. But those of you watching, just be ready because I'm going to do a quick transition to our next segment here. We are doing our appreciation station segment, if I can speak tonight. So I want to get started. We already kind of started talking about comics already and all that, obviously. So I want to hear Chase and Chris and the live chat as well. Feel free to let us know what your top 3 books of March are so far. What you've read, all that good stuff. What's made you go, this is it. This is what's going to make March look really pretty. I'll start with Chase. What you got for us, Chase? You got to recommend the neighborhood. Tell us what we missed.
Okay, well, this is kind of a lie because I'm so far behind. I haven't read a damn comic in March, but I do have. I did made a top list here, and I have the top 5 because I like chaos. I kind of did it in the thing. So my number 1 thing I appreciate about March comics will be finales. I'm in Human Target and Berserker, both in March. I haven't got to them yet, but I know I'm going to love them both. Berserker was a crazy surprise for me. I didn't think I would like it as much as I ended up doing. And it wasn't like a straightforward action. It got a lot more like psychedelic. I was not expecting that. 2, Monkey Prince. I love Monkey Prince.
Mm-hmm.
It's so art and writing. And after the actually broke down. I never get DC events, but I got Lazarus Planet stuff just because Monkey Prince was involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to keep up with that. So after everything that happened in Lazarus Planet, I really am looking forward to reading number 12 of that. Number 3, just the Massive Verse in general. March Massive Verse is very good. With Rogue Sun, Radiant Black, and No One coming out. No One number 1 just came out last week.
Mm-hmm.
And then just 2 other things throw in. The Alex Ross Timeless covers started coming out this month. I love them. They're beautiful. I budgeted myself that I could only get X-Men related ones, but I mean, I got some good ones.
Yep, those Alex Ross covers. Oh, that Phoenix. That Phoenix is probably my favorite I've seen so far.
Whenever the hero ones came out last year or 2 years ago, I only let myself get the X-Men. So I'm only doing X-Men again because I cannot afford. And then just 5 collected editions. A lot of really good collected editions came out this month. So I don't want to go far into it, but because I know he likes them, Brubaker's Immortal Iron Fist came out, hardcover, collected edition of that came out. I mean, Do a Powerbomb hardcover came out.
Yes.
The Doom and Goy DSA came out. Like, just a lot of really, really good. Fables box set. Like, just a lot of good collected editions came out that people should really go into. Variants came out. I know you like that, Lauren.
Yep.
That came out.
Known. Yep. So good.
Oh, and probably one of the best stories to me ever. Plot and All Red Silver Surfer collection came out.
I need to read it. I've seen so many things about it.
I know I cheated. I did 5, but those are the things in March that I'm really looking forward to or enjoy.
Nice. Those are all good choices. Most of those I haven't read. That's what I love about asking other people this question, because you can ask, like, even just the 3 of us, and we've all got very different choices. Like, there's so much variety.
For sure.
All right, Chris,
good choices.
Hit us.
All right, so that was really nice, Chase. So for me, I do a ton of every week, floppies. I do a top 3 every single week, and so I have the benefit of having a whole. I have spreadsheets and all sorts of stuff on my computer that of my ratings from the books and everything. My top 3 rated books that have come out this week have been Phantom Road issue number 1 from Jeff Lemire, since we were already talking about Jeff Lemire. That is a great comic. We've only got 1 issue so far, but it's got that Lemire touch. It's got that it's about a truck driver. He's doing his job. He's traveling the open roads. He's going to deliver to his next stop. And he's got all this time on the road where he's able to think and to reminisce about what's going on back home. He's got a family back home. And we get a nice idea of what's happening at home as he's kind of going through these thoughts in his head. and some of that stuff you can see he's got some regrets. There's some emotional beats. He's paired up with an artist on this book, Walter. What's his name? First name I don't remember his first name, but Walter. He's the same artist that worked with him on Sentient from TKO. So they've worked together in the past. They have chemistry, and it shows in the pages of this comic. Very, very good. Freaking Jeff Lemire again. Flash number 794 was also a really, really good comic. I don't know if either of you read The Flash, but
I do not.
Okay.
I do not. I used to. I love Flash comics. I haven't read them in a couple years though.
My gosh, man. So Jeremy Adams on The Flash, I talk about it over and over to on the channel, and it's one of the best books at DC. Unfortunately, he's not going to be doing it past issue number 800. But he's had a great, fantastic run. He's doing a series right now, an event called 1 Minute War on The Flash. And what I love about this event, not so much the concept of the event, which is really good and what's actually happening, but he's taken this opportunity to really highlight each member of the Flash family. And each issue kind of highlights one of the different Flash characters. This last issue, that 794 that I'm mentioning here, it highlighted Irie, which is the young girl, the daughter, and it was just an incredible issue. What she's kind of stepping up and becoming her own character now in this Flash family, where she's just always been a young girl, and you're seeing her rise out of the powers that she's obtained, recently, and it's just so good. It's just so, like I said, so well written. A lot of family at the core of the book, not just like mother, father, sister, brother, but the Flash family. Like that's like the whole that's the core of that book, and it's just been so incredible. So I'm sad that Jeremy Adams is leaving the book, but definitely, if you guys can and you don't want to go read the whole run of Jeremy Adams, pick up the 1 Minute War, which has been, I think, issue 790 to 794, and his whole run will end at 800. So really good stuff. And then lastly, Action Comics 1052, which was, we have of course, last year we had the whole War World saga that Philip Kennedy Johnson had written with Superman. That whole thing finished, and we're going into this new era with the dawn of DC, and it's been refreshing. It's nice to have Superman back on Earth, being able to, he's trying to navigate what's gone on here. He brought back a couple of kids from War World, and trying to like figure that part of it out and what it's like for them trying to be like alien to this to Earth. So there's very much of that part of the story. It's just very, very good stuff. And then lastly, I guess I'll name a hardcover book that I got. Snow Angels, Jeff Lemire, the hardcover library edition, came out this month, and I actually just got it today. Came in the mail, so I'm really excited about that. Good stuff, man.
Yeah.
Comics.
Those are all really good. I've heard a lot about the Flash 1 Minute War, and I've been really interested in it because I like the Flash. I'm not super into the comic lore yet, but I'd like to get into it. But it's one of those things where I'm already into so many other things that take so much time and money. I'm like, at some point, something's gonna cut out, and I'll get the Flash. I mean, Captain Marvel just announced that Kelly Thompson's run is ending soon with the 50th issue, which is killing me because that's one of the comics that got me back into like going to a shop and getting comics again. So I'll have a spot to fill, I guess. So maybe I'll pick the Flash.
I always think of the Flash covers recently. I think the one that came out for the newest one is like Irie ready to run with Jay right beside her, like that. It's really cool covers.
I'm telling you, as not just as a father, but as a father, seeing her kind of like go on her own and kind of, like I said, establish herself as her own character. And like, you're almost like, I see my daughter in that character, and I'm like, man, it hits an extra special way for me.
There's thing about being like, before I was a parent, I didn't care. You know, kid things happen and stuff. It was
Yeah.
it
Oh,
could be
totally.
whatever. But after I became a parent, like it hits, man. I'm like, oh god, like
Can't
either
help
good,
it.
and traumatic, or lighthearted. It just gets me even more now, kids.
100%, man. 100%.
I wanted to say hi to Steven in the live chat. Good to see you, Steven. I haven't seen you in a while, my friend.
Hayner, man.
Yeah, Hayner's here.
Hayner, man, what's going on? Haven't seen you in forever.
I know, right? There's been a chat going on here too. So we've been looking, and I looked as well. It doesn't look like there's a hardcover yet for Do a Power Bomb. There's a trade out. So waiting to see if there's a hardcover. But Grabs here was talking about he got the Murder Falcon hardcover recently, and I know Ian said he looked at it. Please read it for the love of
good.
God. Please.
Yes.
I haven't heard one bad thing about it from anyone I've known that's read it, and that includes myself. I adore like that. A book with like metal music and weird fighting and all this stuff made me cry, y'all. Like I was bawling.
There's the twist. Yeah. You just not expecting it. It hits you so hard. Murder is so good. I'm trying to get all the metal and mosh covers. I'm only missing 2. So
Daniel Warren Johnson is such a master at taking. I mean, if you look at Do a Power Bomb, Murder Falcon, you know, taking these very. I normally wouldn't be that interested in a wrestling comic or that interested in, you know, a Falcon that shreds on guitar. You know, you know, like. But then he has like this way of blending it with these very heartfelt stories that by the end you're like, it's not necessarily about that thing that's on the cover, you know, with the Falcon playing, you know, shredding guitar or the wrestling. It's the core of the heart, and that's what gets you. But then you end up becoming a fan of the other stuff, like the wrestling and the, you know, it's so good. Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't expect Do a Powerbomb to have the heart that it does. That first issue by the end, I was like, damn it.
I know. I had the same problem because I read a lot of his other stuff before Do a Powerbomb came out. I think the first one I read was Wonder Woman Dead Earth, which is phenomenal and very underrated. If you guys haven't read that, please. It's 3 Black Label. Really, it's fantastic.
It's very good. It's very good.
It's so cool. And I read Better Ray Bill, I think, was next. Then I read Murder Falcon. And so at that point, I was like, well, crap. Now I'm invested in this man's writing. So, I got to Do a Power Bomb. And I completely agree. Like, it's one of those things where I saw so many tweets alone of people when Do a Power Bomb came out. They're not a fan of wrestling. They don't care. I like wrestling, so I knew I was going to pick up either way. And they read it, and they were like, bro, you got me caring about wrestling. What the hell? I don't care about this. He has such a way.
His art is so good. Writing so good. Daniel Warren Johnson's pretty amazing. And Do a Power Bomb. I don't know if you saw it. I got the Extremity trade in. I haven't read it yet, but I just bought it. So
yeah,
nice.
I know Kaiser was talking about it.
I just want to respond to Grab's comment. He said Chris has loved the last 5 wrestling comics that have come out. This is true. So, you know, don't misconstrue my words, Grabs. But here's the thing: look at those comics. And Kaiser put them up there. He knows Crimson Cage, Hell is a Squared Circle, Flash. There was a wrestling issue in there. So there's nothing wrong with loving wrestling. I never grew up as a wrestling fan, and I still to this day am not. I actually have some friends of mine that are local here, and they actually go to like local wrestling matches. And I've gone on occasion, but I'm not that person that's like, those guys are like cheering, like, yes, like screaming, and like they get dressed up and get their faces painted. I'm just there like sitting like, this is fun. I'm there for you guys, you know. So you know,
local
like
so I've been to a lot of local like underground wrestling shows, and there's tons of people who care about those storylines and stuff, even though they're just local shows. People get wild into wrestling.
There's this one wrestler. I don't want to go off topic here, but his name's they call him Luigi, and he's like this. He's, you know, super skinny dude with like very like curly long hair, and big mustache. And then he comes out, and his whole thing is like pizza. You know, he comes out with like a pizza. He's like, he throws the dough in the air, and it's a prop, right? But he just comes out and everybody's like Luigi, and then like when
Mhm.
he gets a guy on the ground, he'll like grab his dough and like slap him, the dough. It's funny, interesting
Honestly,
stuff.
like, I think that's what's so fun with wrestling is that it really is just the biggest form of entertainment. Like, you have everything involved. You have the sports competitiveness, you have the really silly drama, you have the silly thematic things, like you just said, like, he's Luigi, so of course he's got flip pizzas, like, very
Yeah,
stereotypically. And there, there's a lot of negative stuff that comes with that too, right? Like, some things that
sure.
stewed here, too stereotypical, but yeah, like, I'm not the biggest fan of wrestling. I'm not sure I'd see like WWE live because seeing that stuff live and hearing all the talking in between, I don't always want all the talking. Like, just start jumping on each other or something.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's fun. And I mean, honestly, I haven't read all the wrestling comics myself yet, but I would say I would guess that Do a Power Bomb has more of an impact, whether you like wrestling or not, especially after reading Ian's comment here. Didn't like wrestling at all. His dad hated it, so it rubbed off on him. Makes sense. But Do It
Mm,
Powerbomb has become one of my favorite comics, made me happy cry. And that
yeah.
last issue, I was literally
Yeah.
bawling. I was like, dang it, he got me again. So if I ever get
So
to meet
good.
him again, I'm gonna be like, you made me cry again, dude. What the hell?
You met him at the con, right?
Yeah, Heroes Con. He
Yeah.
honestly, I know I've gone to the point where I don't always like meeting people in person, like people I really admire because I'm afraid I'll lose the
Yeah.
image. Like
Yeah.
I actually like to just keep my illusion for a while, but I gotta tell you guys, if you ever get the chance to meet Daniel Warren Johnson, he is so wonderful to me in person. He's very personable, he's very funny, he feels just like a person, and I don't know how else to explain it. So
Yeah.
I would very much encourage, if you like his work, he's a creator that I would recommend meeting, and it
That
would
would
be
you
worth
be
it.
the down to earth like comic person you ever met?
Probably, yes. Yeah, I would say right now, like bigger creator wise, yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Yeah,
Chris, you ever meet somebody at cons that was just super cool when you met them?
Yeah. Very early on, I knew that I liked Jim Lee a lot, and I got to meet him at one of the local cons here. My wife and my parents got me a VIP pass, and I actually got to meet him and got some signatures, and then I got to sit on the front row of his panel, and it was quite the experience. And he was super kind, and more down to earth than you would think for somebody of his stature.
You know what?
Really cool.
Mine's Jim Lee too. So that's crazy.
Yeah,
Mine's Jim
very
Lee as
cool.
well. I met him. It was at a con in Chicago. It was Wizard World Chicago. I don't know, 03, 04, something like that. But it was his 40th birthday, and they had a big thing for him. And
Nice.
I was helping my friend promote his comic, so I was head to toe dressed like a zombie, handing out flyers and
Oh,
stuff.
that's cool.
And he grabbed me and asked me if I wanted some of his birthday cake, and gave me the first slice of his birthday cake, and
Look
like
at
just
that.
for a second. I was like, "What the hell, Jim Lee? Like, this is
That's
crazy."
cool, man.
I stared at this birthday cake for like 2 hours. I was like, I guess I got to eat it. Like,
That's
eventually.
cool, man.
He just
He seems like that kind of guy. Like, yeah,
my friend. I was like, "Happy birthday, man!" He's like, "Thanks." Took it and gave me some cake. This is awesome, man. Like,
yeah. I
very.
remember I went when I went up to him. He said, "What's good to eat around here? Around the this area?" And I'm like, he's asking me, like, like, oh, like, and I kind of got like kind of starstruck. I was like, well, I don't know.
If I wasn't like painted like a zombie, I probably would have got pretty starstruck. But I was like,
Yeah.
like when you have a costume on, no one knows who you are. Like, I felt.
Yeah, you just hide it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
You
he
want
was.
to know something surprising? Is because I know Rob Liefeld gets a ton of hate, and maybe some of it rightfully so sometimes. But the Pouch and I met Rob Liefeld, and I thought he was he was very thoughtful. Like,
I think ego. He seems like an okay guy, especially been in comics for so long. I'm sure you have great conversations with him. It feels like his
he
ego
is. Like he just seems like one of those dudes that would be very egotistical, and I didn't didn't pick that up at all from him. It's quite the opposite. And like I said, I know he's getting paid to be there and all that stuff, but that doesn't stop some other creators from kind of being jerks at some of these signings and cons and stuff. And he was very very thoughtful and considerate, and having longer conversations with people that would get in line. And I was pretty impressed with it. I thought that was quite different than what I thought of him.
I feel like
Especially
he,
when he's
go
not,
ahead, Chase.
I was especially when he's like not in artist alley. You know, he's like there to be a celebrity, and he's still just super cool and down there. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I this is gonna be a little like more the negative side, but I feel like because I actually met him as well. He came to a con in Durham, like a smaller con
Okay.
too, which was weird. He came to a much smaller con, and I was actually working, volunteering at the con. So I was helping like escort him to the stage and stuff. We didn't talk much, but again, super chill guy. Like had no issue with him. Like whatever. And this was before I knew about like him drawing feed and all these negative things about him and how he opens his mouth on Twitter. And I feel like that's the thing with people like him too. And again, this is me not knowing the guy personally, but he has a lot to lose if he's an ass at cons because people already don't like him and shit on him. So he probably, really needs to be nice at cons, whereas other celebrities, they're super big already and they're respected or renowned for their work. They can afford to be assholes because people are like, well, they were kind of an ass, but they're a legend. Look at this writing. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, it is really interesting.
I've only ran across one creator who was like just a dick. When you're talking to him at a con, I was buying something from them, and they're just so rude and so mean. And I thought, like, man, screw this person. Well, I was buying something for my brother because they were big fans of him. And this is like when they're at the height of doing a book. I don't want to say who it is.
Oh wow, yeah, no.
They were a big artist at the time for DC, and he was just such a jerk. When I gave it to my brother, I said, like, I got home, I was like, here's your book. He signed it. I was like, the guy's an ass and all this stuff. And then like years later, some stuff has come out about it, and I'm like, God, I knew it. I'm glad I had a bad feeling about that guy early on, but he was just. It really made me dislike him. He was just so rude in person. I was like, I'm fine with something.
What a shame.
But
that's
the only person who made me, even if I liked what they were doing at the time, their art and stuff, like I completely just stopped buying anything they did because of that.
Yeah.
And that's only happened to one person to me at a con. I've been to a lot of cons, so that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Not bad at all.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say at least that's the only really negative one. So yeah, I'm really glad to hear that as well. I wanted to transition because there's at least two other things I want to chat about with you guys. We've talked about what we've liked in March so far. Oh, I didn't say mine. I guess I'll say mine real quick. They're pretty simple. Moon Knight. If you guys aren't reading Moon Knight, it's probably my third pick. Literally every issue of these 21 issues has been a banger. It is so good. Jed McKay's writing, and I think Alessandro Capuccio, if I'm remembering correctly, the artist, absolutely outstanding. If you guys haven't checked out that run, I would. I hadn't read any Moon Knight before I picked up this run. And I've loved every second of it. And then Captain Marvel. I'm very sad that book is ending with Thompson's run, but the Brood run with the X-Men mixed in has been kind of the perfect outgoing arc, I think. And Thompson is so good with writing characters and personalities and dialogue. I really hope she gets to write an X book one day. I think she'd be really phenomenal on it. And then my number one pick is actually a book some of y'all may not know about. It's called Ethris. It comes out tomorrow, but I've read it because it's by a friend of the show, Anas Abdullah. It's from Source Point Press. Speaking of poetic stuff, so Anas writes very poetic things. They did a first book, Eleutheromania, which I reviewed like a year ago and said was my the best like first comic I've ever seen people read, like debut comic. And I stand by that. It really is, and it's free. Ethris is no different. It's absolutely phenomenal. It is beautiful. It'll pull your heartstrings, rip your heart apart. So if you didn't order it and you happen to see it at the shop tomorrow and you can spare the extra $4 or whatever it is, please get it. It will mean the world to the creators, and it's also well worth your money. It is gorgeous. But that's definitely my top pick of the week. I'm so excited to get it in my shop. And if it's not in my box, I'm going to cry.
Oh man.
But it is really good stuff. Grab said, I've been wanting to pick up the McKay trade. Pick it up. Like, put it up your list, whether that's get it tomorrow or like sooner. Please do it, because it's one ongoing run I haven't dropped, and I've dropped a ton of stuff lately. Like, my pull list is down to 2 to at most like 4 books a week usually, so it made the cut.
Yeah, but I think the newest Moon Knight trade came out this month too.
Nice. You're gonna have to
So,
be
very
our,
cool.
our trade advisor, Chase.
I don't buy many, but I like to know what's coming out in case there is one I want. Usually I get single issues, but occasionally, especially if it's an old series, I just don't want to get like the 40, 50 singles. It
Yeah.
really, trades come in handy, or hardcovers.
Yeah.
I
I hardly
definitely
ever
want
buy
to.
or trade something I already own, but I did do that with Murder Falcon.
Hearing you talk about Moon Knight, and I've heard several people talk about it. It is one that I feel like I missed out on, and I feel like it's how many issues? What is this? 20,
It's at 21, but like
21?
if you're having one issue come out a month, it's really not that
It's
far
not
to
bad.
catch up on. Yeah, and honestly, because Chris, you love Batman so much, obviously
Yeah.
Moon Knight is not Batman. Full disclosure, y'all, we're not going
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
But it gives me similar feelings as in reading some of the best Batman stuff I've read. And I'm not the biggest Batman like freak or fan's a better word. But when I read really good Batman shit, it is like god tier. And Moon Knight to me, this run, it feels like that. It's just so well done. It feels like it was easy for the creators to make, even though I'm sure it's time consuming and exhausting like anything else. So yeah, I think it's right up your alley, Chris, whenever you get to it.
I definitely, yeah, you saying that and what the things that I've heard about it, I had somebody tell me what you just told me. They told me the exact same thing. Like you're a Batman guy, you're gonna like this, and I'm like, you're the second person to say that exact same thing. So I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna read it.
Yeah, it's really good. Kaiser said it's been their only ongoing pull from Marvel. That's a really great choice. That would probably, I mean, at this point, that might be the only one I get if I drop Daredevil and get the trades. Because Daredevil's still good, but it's not my absolute favorite every month.
Yeah,
Moon
it was
Knight's
so
still-
it's not as good as it was. Like Chip and Marco Cicchetto, they were on a roll for so long with that book, and
yeah,
I don't know, this whole thing that they've been doing, with crossing over with the Punisher. It's good. But it's not. It's serviceable.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I was
not.
I was relieved to see, and this sounds bad, but like they've had a great run, like you said, but I think the run has been nearing an ending, and it's very clear now they need to wrap it up because
Yeah.
they're losing their story to tell, which it just happens, especially when it goes on probably a bit longer than planned. I would assume they're going on longer than they originally signed up for because they
Yeah.
did well. So like I was really happy to see the like solicit for like it's ending soon.
Yeah.
I was like, perfect. That's exactly what you need
Yeah.
to do. You do not want to run this till everybody resents it. Like that's not the way to go out on this.
I agree. And it was so good, and it's definitely dropped off. It's definitely, that's why I said it's serviceable. Like
Yeah.
this is a comic. It's decent. You get some good action. If you're a Daredevil fan, you're not gonna miss it.
Sure.
But it's definitely not. It's not what Chip can live up. He does such good writing. It's not as good as he can do. I know that for sure.
Yeah, I think his
Time for a
story just
fresh.
lined up with
Yeah.
with Matt, which again, I totally understand that. So I think it's good they're ending it and moving on to other things in the future. What are we looking forward to in April? Because we've talked about what we enjoyed in March. I'll go ahead and start off with just some of the stuff I'm looking forward to. The Guardians of the Galaxy #1. I can't remember who's writing it or doing it, but like that kind of like Western like space feel. I've been a big fan of Western stories lately, like the indie What Makes a Man by Derek Y. Ford and Nate. I can't remember his last name right now. I'm a terrible person. But their indie comic What Makes a Man is phenomenal. Above Snakes, was like one of my top picks last year. So I'm really excited for this. I hope it's good. I hope it's not #1. I just grab it and like toss away, and I'm like, not getting that again.
Yeah. I definitely get that feeling. Anytime I've ever tried to read Guardians, like I love the movies, and then I try to transfer over to the comics, and it just never hits for me. But this is
Yeah.
one that I'm looking at as well. We'll see. We'll see what's
Yep. There it is.
there.
You
You go.
got it. That's
I had it in my comic book right beside me.
I'll say
I'll
Chase
say,
is always
I'm right
ready.
in front of this, which I need to read eventually.
Oh my God. Read it when you're not feeling like the world sucks. Because if you read that when you're like, everything is terrible, everything will get way worse in your head. But it's so good.
In the
One of
world
the
with
best trades I've read.
puppy dogs and rainbows. Like everything's the bright side for me. So
There you go.
I'm always in the right headspace for that, I guess.
Yeah. Then you'll be fine. There's Seasons Have Teeth #1 coming out from Boom, I think. I'm interested in trying that out. Deep Cuts, which is actually by Kyle Higgins, who started Radiant Black, the Massiverse. It's like a music jazzy themed book. So instantly I have to look at it because kind of like Chris loves the wrestling stuff. I love the music comics. Anything to do with music, if it's a comic, I'm going to try it. I may not like it, but I'm going to give it a shot. So really excited for that. The End of 8 Billion Genies comes out soon.
Yeah.
Really, really excited to see what goes on with that because it's like 8 centuries or something is the last issue. Pretty wild.
Mm-hmm. Love that book.
Yeah, that's definitely been one of my top NDs. Like that's an ND that's made the cut in my pull list, and then just more Moon Knight and the last issues of Captain Marvel and Poison Ivy. I haven't talked about that book a lot, but that book was so good it got made into a longer limited of 12 and now it's an ongoing. So if y'all are missing out on Poison Ivy, you are doing yourself a very big injustice there. It is just beyond good. It's really insane how good it is.
Awesome. Good picks. Yeah.
All right, Chris, what you looking forward to?
I am really looking forward to. I'll name 3 titles for next month. Green Arrow. So we're getting the Donna DC. We're bringing back Green Arrow, which I have always been a fan of Green Arrow. I feel like he never gets quite the justice that he should in comic books. I very much enjoyed the Rebirth Green Arrow books that were coming out. Collected all of them, and I think they stopped prematurely at. I want to say it was I think it was 50. I think it was 50 issues. But he's never a big seller at DC, so he gets cut off quite a bit. Hasn't had an ongoing or a limited in quite some time, so really looking forward to that. Josh Williamson writing that one. I think that's going to be top tier. World Tree, we got James Tinian on that one. And that one's set in the 90s. I don't have it all in front of me, but I just remember thinking it's like a tech. It's like something with the inception of the internet and the tech being used for nefarious things but way back then, and it's been one that's been on my radar for a couple of months now. So really looking forward to that one. And then the last one I'll say is it's supposedly it's going to be a little quirky one. It's called Hairball. There's a cat on the cover, and I believe Matt Kent is writing that one, which I'm a big fan of anything that he writes. And yeah, that one looks super interesting. I'm curious what all that is about. I just remember it's about a cat, and I can't tell you much more except it's Matt Kent, and I'm in for it.
Berserker? That was Matt Kent, right?
Which one?
Berserker? Isn't that Matt Kent?
Yeah, Matt Kent and Keanu Reeves. Yep, exactly.
Did you like that?
I loved it. Yeah, and there you go. Hairball.
I had to look it up because Zeki said, I was like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, Hairball. And there you go. You got a description there.
Yeah, a young girl with a black cat begins to suspect the innocuous beast is behind all her troubles. Her parents fighting, family plagues, and innumerable supernatural horrors. As she tries her best to get rid of this creature, she discovers that maybe the cat is not evil after all, and a greater terror may be behind these horrific events harming her life. Interesting.
That's too much. I already told you that not to worry about the cat. We're going to make you start worrying about the
cat. Maybe that's the point.
Yeah.
Too much away.
Man, reading that, it makes me I'm even more excited than what I remembered.
I was going to say, I look forward to your review, Chris. I feel like this is going to be really great or really what did I just read?
Right.
I'll be interested.
Matt Kent just finished a series called Spy Superb. I don't know if either of you read that. There's only a 3-issue run. But man, he is slowly moving up some of my favorite creator lists. I mean, he's just he's funny. Like every everything he writes, he's got some sort of humor, except Berserker. That one's kind of standalone and very dramatic, Keanu Reeves fashion, action and
Right.
killing and bloody. And but man, he is a great writer. Yeah, this one's a lot of fun. Spy Superb. If you're looking for something fun, it's kind of doesn't take itself too serious, and it's a spy story, and basically it's he's like the greatest secret, that the powers of the world have been using this spy, for decades. But the spy is not actually he's not actually a spy. He's like he can be like your local idiot, and the government chooses that person to be the spy, unknowingly. um, that's about all I can say about it. It's just really it's really interesting and funny, comical, and good stuff. Spy espionage comedy is, I guess, the way I'd put it.
Yeah, it sounds really good. I'm definitely gonna add to my list to check out because I'm kind of where like I don't know if we said this on the air or not. I know we were talking before we went on the air, but kind of like what Chase was saying at one point. I like the funnier stuff lately. Like I want more of the
Yeah.
lighthearted, to balance out with the deep serious or even the horror or what have you. And I don't feel like there's enough of that in comics. You know, there's a lot of serious stuff out right now, which is fantastic, but it's like I like sometimes I just want to read the older stuff because it seemed like they had more fun with it. Like the older stuff,
Yeah.
even in only one canon of continuity, right? They didn't have other continuities. They just did what they wanted.
Yeah.
No,
I agree.
It reminds me a lot of older comics. Like it's very whimsical type.
Yeah.
I agree. And I call those like palate cleansers. Like you have to have, like when I do my Wednesday night reading, that's why I love to have those kind of titles sprinkled in, and they're very few and far between where they're actually quirky and good, and where it all it all makes sense. And go ahead, Chase.
And one of my favorites lately was, do you remember last year into this year, The Thing?
The Thing, yeah.
Such a good cat cleanser book to me. Like every issue was just so good, but it wasn't like overly tense or dramatic. It was just a Thing comic, and it was very good. I love the way it was handled.
And that, like for me, like I keep going back to Flash, but like DC is known for being so dark and gritty, and like Flash is like this little corner of like this bright corner of the DC universe where you things are not all dark and grim, and you have it really highlights that family aspect. I love that, and I feel like you need that, like you said, Lauren. You need that as you're doing your reading. You don't want everything to be dark and grim, and I enjoy that stuff quite a bit. But I too like to get that palate cleanser, and I'm reading something super dark and super serious, and then I pull a book like this Furball. Maybe I don't know. This one looks dark too, so I don't know. But I'm like, like I'm gonna get an Archie comic tomorrow that looks. I know it's like supposed to be in the like have some horror vibes to it, but it's also Archie, and I know it's gonna be like a fun kind of off the wall, quirky type of story, and I need that.
I think growing up for me, Marvel was always the serious, gritty one. DC was the lighthearted. They have the fantastical, like godlike characters, Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash, who can do exceptional things. Whereas Marvel had more grounded characters. It was more gritty. And then then they got rid of Vertigo. They got rid of Wildstorm. And people wanted these serious stories, but DC couldn't give them because their universe is this lighthearted thing. So they just started letting all that bleed into the DC universe. So now the DC universe is super gritty and dark, and it makes no sense to me. They need to go back to having like Elseworld and Vertigo and stuff like that to do all that stuff, and still have like the happy Flash style stories, too, old Captain Marvel stories, like things that are just happy-go-lucky stories too. Because everything is gritty and real world now. I don't always want gritty real world,
Yeah.
Like when Starman came, when the Jack Knight Starman, you didn't have a lot of gritty real world stuff except for Elseworlds and Vertigo and stuff. So like that was, and it sold so well. As much as I love Starman, I also kind of blame that for bringing more of the dark into DC. But then DC has great stories that are dark and serious. So it's hard to.
Right.
But it's just weird how they flipped. Marvel used to be gritty and dark, and DC was not, and now people look at it differently. Weird.
Do Do either of you read or have read the current Fantastic Four run at Marvel
I've
right now?
not.
No, my brother gets it. Whenever it finishes, I'll get it from him and read it.
It's really fun, like, and it's very it's interesting because they take, like, each issue is it's like a one shot. Like, each issue is a one shot, basically.
Okay.
Focuses on different characters, but ultimately there is an underlying story, and that's kind of connected in the last issue. Um, but it's very I think the one shot kind of, like, and they don't actually call it one shots. There's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but that format, it helps break things up. And like, there's a very odd issue with Johnny Storm, and it's just like him being, who he's just a goofball, and he's like running around without his shirt on in public, and just all these silly things, and that shouldn't, make sense in a Marvel, in the Marvel universe. But it's a lot of fun, like, and it's like one of those type of comics where you can, like, the first issue focused on the Thing and Alicia, and it was a little bit more heavy and dramatic, and then you had this very silly one, and I kind of I'm really enjoying that kind of change of pace in a comic. So, just kind of while we're talking about this, have either of you read Giant Days? Giant Days?
Nope.
I know what it is, but I've never read it. I know the cover of it right in my head.
Man, that's another one that, like, just talking about quirky, breaking things up. Giant Days, man.
I always see people use Giant Days panels as memes and stuff on Twitter. I see Giant Days a lot, but I've never read it.
Slice of life stories. I think that's what's been in the back of my head while we're talking about that. It's just, you can go cosmic, you can go big, bold events and all this stuff, and sometimes that stuff's fun, but man, sometimes you just want that slice of life. And Giant Days, it's just about this group of girls that are roommates in college, and they live college out together, and they're partying, and they're encountering relationships and their relationship together and as friends, and it's very slice of life. But it ran like a good man. I say there's like 6 or 7 volumes. There might be even more.
Wow.
It was a lot.
Really?
It was a long story. And I remember reading it all on digital. And but I just had such a great time. Like, I kept reading it, and it was good. Really good stuff.
I saw all the Hoopla apps, my library, Hoopla app. They have all Giant Days on there.
Yeah. Again, maybe I don't even remember why I started reading it. Usually not a book that would be up my alley, but I took it, I read it, and I was like, I couldn't stop reading it. It's good stuff. Really good stuff.
It's like pop music. You don't expect to like certain things, and you'll hear it.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yes.
I do kind of like this. Like, I didn't think I would. I think that that's one thing that I like the most about comics. There's so many different genres and different styles out there that there's one comic at least in every genre that you're going to like. It's just how it is. I like to think of it like music too. Like, there's somebody writing it right, and you'll find it. And it's just, I love that there's so many options in comics.
100%.
Yep. Could not agree more. Well, Chase, give us like 2 to 3 things you're looking forward to in April. I know you're behind on books, so you can always just talk about books you're waiting to get in if you need to.
I did research. I got it. Yeah. Number 1, Mighty. Have you guys seen the Mighty Barbarians? It's
I haven't.
Michael Moretti, the writer from Barbarian.
Yeah, I know him.
And Giuseppe Caparo from like Power Rangers and Suicide Squad. They're together doing a Barbarians book called Mighty Barbarians. And
Nice.
I saw the team behind it, and I thought, yeah, I'm gonna read that shit. So that's on there. The new the Radiant Black coming out is the Black Light edition, and it's gonna be the issue before the next Supermassive. So last time was a huge event. So I figure it's gonna be really good too. And then I know people have issues. I don't really know what they are because I don't pay too much attention. But Jeff Johns has 4 books next month, and I'm excited for every single one of them. JSA, Stargirl, Lost Children has been fantastic. Junkyard Joe is outrageously good. I can't explain how good that book is. And then the Image 30th anniversary collection in
Mhm.
next month. And well, I don't know if you got anybody has been keeping up with those, but it's all just a bunch of stories like
Right.
newspaper just sections and Jeff Johns' story, The Blizzard, and it's been so good. Like I
Mhm.
can't wait to read it all straight, because you got to read it with all these other mini stories. But it's been so good. So I'm excited for all of those stories too.
Great
Nice.
list.
I always love your picks, Chase, because they're almost always things I don't read because we have the X-Men in common, and then after that, I get so
Yeah,
many good recommendations from you because you go like more out of the box than I usually do.
I'm all over the place with the comics. That's clear.
That's really cool. Can I just quick plug since you mentioned it, but Michael Marisi next week will be on our show.
Thank you.
And
Woo!
yeah,
All right.
so Barbaric, we're gonna talk about the Mighty Barbarian. It's
So
good
you knew about
stuff, man. Yeah,
All
I
right.
do know definitely. And I'm assuming you're reading Barbaric, Chase.
Yes, I love it.
Man, I love that book, man. And talk about we're talking about like off the wall stuff that kind of cleanses the
It's
palate.
very off the wall in a great
Very,
way.
Okay, so
like
I love fantasy stories, right? And I'm a sucker for the magic item that keeps the souls of people and talks to you while you're fighting and stuff.
yeah,
And that's not exactly what the hammer is barbaric. It's the same concept. The whole time it's talking. It's supposed to be the voice of reason, but it's bloodlust. It's just so uncontrollable that once it starts drinking blood, it just wants more. I like the
it.
different types of blood, like his orc, and it was like, like what's that? Like,
I love it.
the witch girl, like so barbaric is so good, and the art is fantastic. It's
Mhm.
I think it should be bigger than it is. I don't know why more people aren't talking about it, but from that alone made me want to get Mighty Barbarian. I mean, they're such good writers, and I can't wait for that episode. I will
Agreed.
be in the chat second thing.
Sounds
commenting
good,
on
man. I'm looking forward to it. I'm gonna dig into the mind of Marisi. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, Barbaric's fantastic. So I'm really glad you got him to come on. I'm sure that'll be a really big show for y'all. And I'll try to pop in as well because I'd love
Yeah.
to hear what he has to say as well. Well, to wrap up the show, I had this kind of big question I wanted to ask everybody, including myself, but this can also go for those of you in the live chat.
hard,
What was that?
hard question.
It's
Hard.
very hard. It's hard even for me. I have a list of like my pick and then backups. Like Chase and I were texting earlier. We're like, we got backups because somebody's gonna pick what I pick. But basically, if you had to recommend only one trade paperback to a person that was new to comics, but you had to recommend it to them without any considerations for what they like, what trade would you recommend? So tough question there. Again, usually, of course, I like to do this too, right? Okay, well, what are you into? Like, Chris said with the story earlier. Well, I like Batman, man. Okay, cool. But you don't get to ask that question in this. It is you have a new person to comics. They say, give me something to read. It's either going to make or break whether they, continue with the hobby. Chase, just because I know we talked earlier, I'm going to go to you first. What is the first thing? I'll give you first dibs. Was the one you would give and say, this is it?
Can I just be
Yeah.
excused for just a second?
Yeah.
Be right back. Be right back. Hold on. Excuse me.
Don't collapse. Don't collapse. Before you go then, Chase,
Okay.
let's see. Bolly Rock said Superman Red Sun. I haven't read that. I'm literally writing a list of things I need to read.
Remember, it sounds good. It's very good, but it's also there's animated. You can watch
I watched that. That's why I want to read it because I watched it and I did like the animation. It wasn't like my favorite, but it was really, really cool. And so I was like, kind of want to see what this came from.
I think it's only like 4 issues, something like that. They're a little bit thicker, but
yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's Red Sun. What else anybody got? Anybody else thrown any out there yet? I can't see them.
We got Batman: The Long Halloween from Eric. I am not surprised by that. Absolutely. No. It's a classic. This one, well, now I'm not going to say it as my pick. It was on my list, but it was not my number one, so it's okay. But this was definitely my top 5. Many Does the Layla Star.
I was going to mention that because I know that Chris loves that. That also came out, the hardcover came out this month for the Many Deaths of Layla Star. So hardcover, but a lot of extra stuff in the back. Like,
God, that hardcover is gonna be gorgeous too. Why'd you tell me this, Chase? I don't have money right now. Damn it.
anyway,
It-
I write it down.
It is so good. That is one of the stories that really got me to love Ram V as a writer. The art's beautiful. I mean, everything about that book is beautiful. I can't find a flaw in it, and I don't want to. So, like, if there's a flaw, don't tell me.
Never. Don't tell me. When it was coming out, it's always said I was trade waiting, and I just never got to that either.
Yeah. Kaiser said Layla Starr, yep, and Stray Dogs. Interesting choice. I need to read Stray Dogs then, I guess, because I had heard a lot about it. But it's dogs and it makes people cry, so I'm not sure I want to read it because then I will.
I remember Layla Starr was coming out because my memory does this because I was budgeting what I want to get, and I decided to get Carmen instead, and I loved Carmen.
I remember that. I remember talking about it in the past, and other people I talked to, they loved it, and I just didn't get it first. After I reread the entire thing, I appreciate Carmen for what it is, and I still do. But it's definitely not my like normal cup of tea. But I get why people like it. Chris, don't worry, you didn't miss much. We started going through people in the live chat, so
okay,
don't worry.
But because of what Kaiser said, it made me think about the hardcover for Many Deaths of Layla Starr came out this month, Chris.
Yep.
Man, I need to get that. I have.
That's what I said. I was like, damn it. Yep.
I have the singles and I have the trade, but now I need the hardcover because
that's what Ian
one
said.
Of my favorite. Yeah.
Ian's got it all. BS to the hardcover. So Ian, you are the king of Layla Starr, I guess. Whatever the hell that means. Grabs, I did not know this. He's the only person that doesn't like the main deaths of Layla Starr. I'm afraid to ask this, but curiosity killed the cat. Why don't you like it, Grabs? I am very interested, very curious, because you're the first person, as you said, I've heard of that does not like it.
Honestly, he's probably the first person I've heard too. Everybody seems to love it.
Yeah, very interesting. But again, like, there's always somebody that doesn't like something, you know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with that. So,
yeah.
All right, Chase, bring it back. While they keep typing in the chat, and we'll get back to them. What is your pick?
I'm doing a little bit of a thing here. So it was really hard because you're trying to think about, nothing about this person, but that they're in the comic books. They want to be in the comic books, right? So I was trying to think about when I was younger, what was one of the easiest digestible comics that I loved. And that brought me to Usagi Yojimbo #1. Anybody who picks this up, it's a straight from a Kurosawa film. It's a lonely traveler, or lonely Ronin, walking from village to village, just helping people out. It's a fun art style. Stan Sakai's art style is not fantastic, but it fits Usagi so much. He's just a bunny rabbit. His ears are up like a bandana, so it looks like he's a samurai. I mean, it's so simple. And there was a time when I was younger in Wizard Magazine that they had a Dark Horse's body count, and Usagi Yojimbo was #2. He kills so many people, so many animals and things. Like, it's war. It's straight up feudal Japan war. But he's the traveling Ronin going to the different villages and stuff. And terrible way to describe it. It's 1960s. It's Stan Sakai's love letter to 1960s cinema that is still going on. It's over 30 years, and it's still going on.
That's wild.
I didn't mention it because there's not one in April, but the end of this last Wednesday of this month, and then twice in May, the new Usagi Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossover comes out.
Oh, wow.
So he's in April, but like I said, he's still going strong. It's easily one of my favorite comic characters, and it's so easily digestible, and it's just a wandering hero story, and who doesn't love it? I figure if anybody picks it up, not knowing anything about comics, they couldn't help but really enjoy Usagi Yojimbo. He's a rabbit. I mean, it's awesome. It's so good. I can't explain. It's just, if you've never read it, they've been re-releasing storylines in color. So it was originally in black and white. So they're going back and recoloring it, releasing them in single issues. They've released about, I want to say 10 to 12 of them, and I've been collecting them. They're so good. It's so good. I love Usagi. Since I was a kid, to this day, I still read it.
That's awesome. I would have never thought, because I've seen this book. Like, I've seen this character, but I've never, like, read anything or seen anything. So the fact that it's, like, that high a recommendation from you, like, it's on my list. I'm going to read something of this. I'm going to read about this bunny.
If you like Kurosawa, 1960s, Japanese, movie, The Magnificent Seven, Seven Samurais, what Magnificent Seven was based off of. It's that. I mean, just travel or Kung Fu, the series, very similar. Just a traveling
Mhm.
Ronin. He has no village anymore. He has no king, so he just wanted help. And it's great. I love it. It's so good.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that is the first pick. If you guys are needing something really fresh to read that Chase would recommend to anybody, here you go. If you're tired of everything else, you need a break from what you're reading. Right here. Read about Bunny Samurai. Why wouldn't you want it?
You won't. It's fast. It's a quick read because it's just so easily digestible. Because there's no bells and whistles. It's straightforward what it is.
I love it. I love it. All right, Chris, hit us.
Okay.
We've got a Bunny Samurai. So where are you adding to the table?
That is an interesting pick, Chase. I didn't see that coming for sure. So when I think of people that have never read comics, and you think about, so what can I recommend to them? It's not specific, like you asked the question, right? For me, somebody could have said, "Hey, read Batman, Dark Knight Returns," and that was my gateway drug into comics. But you ask this just a standard person that doesn't care about superheroes, or maybe they do, but they just have never done comics, and you're trying to explain to them, hey, comics are more than Batman. It's more than Superman. It's more than, than Avengers. And they're like, okay, well, and this has actually happened to me in real life. I worked with somebody. Now, I had not read this book at the time, so I couldn't recommend it. But I did recommend them something else, and they got into comics. But this book right here, and I was trying not to talk about it too much earlier, Chase, because you brought it up, but Essex County. Essex County.
More
Jeff
Lemire.
Lemire.
This is a Lemire night.
This is
Horrible Slice of Life too. You're right. That would be good for somebody who doesn't know anything about it. You're exactly right.
Jeff Lemire, I think, and this particular story in particular, because there's three main stories basically throughout this book, and throughout the threads of the whole book, I think anybody that has ever lived life or had family, which is everybody, whether those relationships are good or whether those relationships are bad, I think you can find a thread in this book and relate to it. For me, my favorite of the three storylines that kind of go in this book, there's these two brothers. They're inseparable, but life and mistakes separate them, and they go their separate ways. As one of those brothers gets older, he's marred with regrets, and he's got all these moments of reflection where he's thinking back on their past. It's just so heartfelt. This book really, really hit me hard. And it's such an easy read too. Like there's nothing complex about it. It's very simple. You can read this it looks huge when you look at it like this, but it's actually a very quick read. I read it in one weekend, and that was mostly like restroom reading and some, nighttime reading, but in this book, Lemire takes you on this huge epic journey, and when you're done, you don't realize, but he's just taken you through decades of story, from these two brothers being young all the way to when they're old. The art, so simple. Lemire's art's simple, but I think it really excels at capturing the moments and the emotion in the faces that he draws in this book. And I think for that reason, there's nothing complex about the art for a new reader. They can just look at this, and it's very, like I said, very simple. And I mean, look at some of these, some of this art, and it's colorless. So I think it's very easy to digest, and you get a ton of story, and the art will not lose you because it's very simple. I just think there's so much here. I think, like I said, any human being reads this and they're like, "Oh shoot, this is comics!" Like I had no clue this is what comics could be. Yeah. So that's my pick, Essex County. I love that book.
That's such a good pick. You're right. That's a great pick. And I agree with the brother story. As I have two brothers, one of them I was super close with. That's the one that got me. Whenever I told you that.
Yeah. So good. Yep.
Added to my
list. I had a friend try to cut that book in half with a katana, after he bought it at a comic convention because he got a katana as well,
Yeah.
and we, egged him on to do it. I mean, he talked about in the car driving from Chicago to West Virginia. It's a 10-hour drive. So we're just egging him on the whole way. Like, oh, you can't do it. Like, you can't. He's like, this is sharp blade. I just bought this. So we pulled off on a farm in the middle of nowhere. And he tried to cut through it, made it about halfway. And that's how I read it. I read a book that was halfway.
Oh, man. How dare you do that, man?
Right.
Lemire.
That's wild. Absolutely wild. I like Grabs' pick here. It's another Lemire book, but I actually have all the volumes. They're out.
Yes.
Royal City. Very, very good one. And what I really like with your pick and then like this pick of Royal City and some other people in the chat's picks, when I think about a book that I can recommend to anyone, regardless of their taste, obviously it's still gonna be hit or miss, but I want to look for themes like family. I want some humor, also with some serious notes. Like I want a decent balance in there. I don't want to recommend anything too dark off the bat. I don't want to recommend anything too goofy off the bat because I'm not considering their tastes. I'm trying to recommend something that generally, a lot of people are going to connect to. So for me, this is a pick a lot of people I don't think know about, but I wrote reviews for on the Wednesday Poll List site, and I really loved it, and actually got optioned off for Netflix. It's just taking a while to get to, and they're supposed to return to writing another arc at some point, but it's gonna be Shadecraft. So Shadecraft is absolutely phenomenal to me. It's an easy read. It's a fun read. It hits all the marks on family, also real stakes is what gets me. It's like if you took a CW show and you made it actually like high quality television. Like it has all the elements of CW show, but it's done well. So it has better writing. It has this, it has that, but it has all these family elements. It's very watchable for general audiences. It's very fun for us to consume, and it's got those like fantasy supernatural elements, like just the right amount for people to really get into it, but not enough that'll deter people that don't like the supernatural fantasy elements. And I remember at the time I read it, I really compared it to shows like Buffy and things like that. So it's just so good. So if you guys haven't read this, it's only one volume. I think it's like only 5 issues, because they're both creators, the artist and the writer. They're both busy, both with a Netflix show and other projects. So they haven't gone back to the next arc yet, but it is absolutely phenomenal. I highly recommend it. I think the guy, what's his name? Henderson, I think is his last name. Yeah. So the guy who wrote it, he, I think used to be a producer, writer, something like that for the show Lucifer and things like that. So hopefully this stays getting made to television because it will translate very, very well. It's really fun.
I've heard good things about this one, and I've never read it, but I've definitely heard a lot of good reviews on it, and yeah, you definitely piqued my interest with that. We're bringing it up again. Yeah,
I've never heard of it, but I wrote it down.
It is so good. Chase, I know for sure you'll love it because
I love Buffy.
Yeah, that's how I knew. I was like, you'll love it. No questions asked. Yeah, it is so good. I wish more people read it, but the fact that like when it came out, it had already gotten option off for Netflix. I was like, well, damn. All right. Like, we'll see if Netflix still makes it though, because Netflix is canceling everything. But
yeah,
I was like Berserk. It got optioned immediately too from Netflix, I believe.
Yeah, that doesn't
Right,
surprise me though, because
Kind of Reeves attached to it. That'll get
that's why they made that comic to translate to all this other media. Like it's literally, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but that's exactly what it is.
I really enjoy Berserker. I think it's really good. It's more than I thought it was going to be, but it does kill me that they kickstarted it. Right? Like,
yes,
yeah, they shouldn't have done that. They just didn't want to fork over their own money, so they used a platform to crowdfund and get the money, so they don't have to spend it, which is very smart business. Very frustrating to me as a consumer and a human being.
knowing that they could.
sure.
I mean, they could self-publish it if they want to. Like on Keanu Reeves, I'm sure he has a company.
Oh, I mean, for
yeah.
sure. That's the thing too. Like, I love Keanu Reeves. Don't get me wrong. This is not me trying to throw shade at him, but you're right. Like, he could have probably self-published it with his own dang money. Like, he had a say. All these people had says, and yeah, that just
really bugs me. And I know it's just a stupid thing, and it doesn't like anger me, but just part of me is like, that just seems so. That's for us. That's for people like who can't afford and just really want to get their.
Yeah, it's more that platform is supposed to be for indie creators that literally can't get to a publisher and they can't fund it themselves because they don't have the money. That's what those platforms are for. So when I see Boom Studios do that, when I see Image, when I see Todd McFarlane do that, and people are like, yay, the Godfather's doing their action figure. I'm like, dude has the money, man.
Right.
He's got the money. He is eating
Didn't
it for y'all. But anyways.
Boom announce they're joining the global comics app? Was it Boom and Image that announced?
Yes, I did want to talk about that. I wasn't sure we have time, but yeah, I was really excited about that news because I've been saying for probably at least a year now. I'm like, I would love to just have an app like Marvel Unlimited or DC Infinite where I can read indie comics on like all of them in one place, essentially, like all the big ones at least, like Image, Boom. Even if we can get Scout on there, that'd be great. Because then I can just read them there. I'll pay a monthly subscription, and that'll help me save a shit ton of money. Like,
I'm trying to see.
that got announced, which was really awesome.
There. The Tokyo Pop's on there, Boom, Image, like a lot of people.
Source Point Press, Mad Cave.
Yeah, that's huge. All those are freaking huge.
Since this year started, 23, they have gained 50% in people signing up for it, just because all the announcements of all the people that are joining before. I guess the whole thing is that they're launching the iOS app this month.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be big. There's only 4 employees there too. I did a lot of research.
Oh my god!
Oh wow!
No, those poor people.
No, but
it's like
they're all like.
That's what I was thinking too, Chris.
On paper, they are very, very like talented and towards what they're doing. Like they have a lot of experience. But there's only 4 of them. I was like, God, 50% increase of people just since 2023. This is before iOS has dropped. Like I am excited for it, but also I'm going to give a month or so after it comes out to get like bugs and stuff, because I do not foresee it being a smooth thing. I know it's going on the website, but I will eventually probably shell out the money for a subscription, because why not? All the comics that I don't have the money to buy, I can read. And anything I read digitally that I really like, I will wait for a trade or to find the thing that's cheap anyway, if I really like it. Todd used to do music. If I really liked it after I downloaded it, I'd go buy their album or something. But I'm excited about that too. After I did research about it today, it looks pretty like they might know what they're doing. Like it looks like
get more employees though. Dear God, like they know what they're doing until you count the employees.
But it's much more like people to get their own comics out there too. Like I like it. I like the whole concept behind it. Their business model, I wrote it all down, is very good. Like if they follow all that, it's going to be a good company. If it's getting bigger and bigger, it's been around for a little bit, but once the iOS drops, I am excited, especially Image joining and Boom. Like that's wild. That's a lot.
No, it's a huge one. I saw that news and I was thrilled because I've been dying for this.
I'd be just throwing my money at them. Like I have no reason to buy comics after that.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the thing. Kaiser, what's the app called? It'll be Global Comics. I don't know if they're gonna title it, like brand it with something. Yeah, I haven't heard that unless Chase heard otherwise, but it'll be from Global Comics. And
it's one word, and comics is with an X.
Yeah. They already have a website, so you can see their website. I know there's other like super small indie creators that like post their comics on there, like the first issue to read for free a lot of the times, and then the other ones you like pay for, but it's a really friendly indie comic service. So I'm glad that if anybody's doing this, it's them, because I think they have the best shot of making this app and this service work and work through the glitches and bugs that are for sure going to happen, and also still make sure the creators are getting the base what they need, because that's something I try to be aware of. You know, I'm a consumer, so I'm all like, how much am I spending? But I want to also make sure creators are getting what they need as well. So
something that when I was looking at it, it says that so far this year they have published 5,000 new books. So they're like a publisher as well. You can publish your books through them. Because I know independent people can publish through, like, with them or put it on that. So what's that? I'm very confused. Like, you know, I did as much research as I could today on it, but there's things that I really want to look more up on, because, I mean, if they're making it easier for people to get their stories out there too, like.
Well, I mean, because I mean, that's what you're doing when you ask, essentially, you apply to put your book on Global Comics, they are literally publishing it for you, even though it's not coming out in print, right? Digital publishing, and on their big platform where you get to reach their community and their people, that's still a form of publishing. So that's what that means, I believe. I don't think they print yet, but
That's awesome.
Yeah.
For independent people, just want their story to be out there. It's another option other than going Kickstarter or Indiegogo or self-publishing. It's another option. I kind of love it.
yeah.
I do like my physical comics, but I'm not opposed to digital at all.
Yeah, I mean, my
Yeah.
physical collection has gotten big enough that I'm at the point where I'm like, unless I really love it or it's something new I'm trying or whatnot, I'm not dying to get physical comics anymore, which is kind of like sad, but it's also like I'm gonna run out of space. I need space for future things that I really, really love and really want to keep, or pass down to someone else in the future, what have you. So I've gone pickier with the comics I get than I used to.
In
So.
like 12, 15 years, when my kids are out of the house, I got 2 rooms that I don't have anything in.
Yeah.
When I was in
Stack 'em
college,
up, Chase.
when I was in college, before I lost a bunch of comics in the second flood, I used to stack all my comics up to look like a couch or a bed, and I'd put a blanket over it. So when people would come and hang out, it looked like I have an extra couch in my room. Like,
I love that.
Just don't
I
let them
love
sit
that.
on it, man.
Yep. There
Right.
you go. That'll kill it.
Gosh.
Well, in case you guys missed it and all the chit chat, Chase's trade rec for anybody of any taste is Usagi Jimbo. Chris's pick was Essex County, and my pick was Shadecraft. So, in case you guys are wondering what some of our kind of top recs, but also all-encompassing ones are, there you have it. You're all set to go. So I don't want to hear you don't have anything to read. You've got something to read. I know nobody here has read all 3 of those things. Nobody.
Right.
If you have, I want to know.
I've only read 2 of them.
Pardon?
So I've only read 2 of them.
Yeah, but see, you still got one left. That's all that matters.
Right.
Yeah.
There's still one to read. All right, y'all. Well, we're going to move into our last segment and transition and get ready to wrap this show up tonight. All right. Well, thank you guys in the live chat for joining tonight. Thank you to Chase and Chris for being here. It's been such a great time going live again. Haven't done this in a while. Chase, where can people find you? Plug yourself away.
Nowhere. Find me on Twitter. I comment on comics. That's about the only place. Or on Discord. Get on the neighborhood Discord. I'm on there too. But other than that, just check me out in the comments section of Lost in Comics Live. Just anywhere that people involved in the neighborhood, just plug their shows. That's what matters. I'm just here to talk.
Yeah, if you guys want to join the Discord, you're welcome to. There should be a link in the description. If there isn't, come yell at me on Twitter. It's going on the bottom of the frame there at NBHD Comic Show, and we'll get you a link. Chris, plug yourself away. I know you guys have a lot going on this week at Lost of Comics alone. Plug yourself away.
Well, first off, again, thank you for having me, Lauren. Chase, one of the coolest things about your Twitter, Chase, that I've always admired, and one of the things that caught my attention, like at the very beginning, was, I can't remember exactly what it says, but your bio, it's like, I've been watching, and I decided to start commenting on things.
Sure. For you things, I just read and I never comment. And finally, when the pandemic happened, I said I'm going to comment. So that's why.
Yeah. So I think that's great. And I love you guys are both great follows and great, like I said, great members of the comic community, and I'm very happy and proud to know both of you. What are we doing? Oh, plugging myself. I'll say, what are we doing?
I'll take the nice things, but don't forget yourself, man.
Keep going. I like this part.
Lost in Comics. It's LOSTN. There's no in. It's just LOST''N Comics. Search for us on Twitter, Instagram. Put in Lost in Comics. You'll find it. YouTube, of course, that is our bread and butter, where I think I spend the most time trying to create good comic book content that hopefully most people enjoy. We love comics. I love people. Doesn't matter what kind of person you are. You're welcome to our channel, and I love creating comic content because I love comic books. Um, every Thursday, some kind of content is released. Usually, a top 3 picks of the week, where I read a stack of comics and I tell you my 3 favorite comics that came out that week. This week we have that will be available in the AM, and then we're doing a live show Thursday nights where I will have David the Pouch with us.
Woo!
We'll get into all sorts of shenanigans, and it's gonna be a good time. We'll see if he's read any comics over the last month. It's gonna be fun.
A lot of number 2s somewhere.
A lot of numbered issues, number 2s and 3s. I just think that's so strange to me. I honestly, like, I don't. That guy baffles my mind. I'm like, why wouldn't you read a number 1? Like, that is, you have to read issue number 1. He's like, I just jumped in. I read number 2. I'm like, and it's like, it's a running joke, but it's. Say again,
I love
Chief.
that guy.
I said he's just number 2 in heart. I said he's the second co-host of your. Just number 2 in everything.
That's gotta be it. Like, I love David.
I love him
I definitely
too.
see that mindset.
I also love that think about like extreme 90s, and that's what David loves. Like, if you want to find a comic that he likes, is there a flashy like palette cover? Is there a woman with a really low cut on the cover? He's really not.
That's David, man. I love him.
Kaiser here pointing out Gun Honey. So the second chase, you were like, oh, the like woman in the cover. I was like, that's Gun Honey.
That's Gun Honey.
Gun Honey. And they're not even bad books. Like, I've read them. I enjoyed them. But yeah, that's Gun Honey. I
hope that they, I don't even know what publisher creates Gun Honey, but I feel like they need to get David to be a spokesperson. You know, I'm like, the dude loves that comic.
I think that's Titan. Yeah, Titan Comics. Yeah, I've done reviews and interviews with some of their people before. Yeah. They do really cool stuff. If you guys haven't read other stuff from Titan Comics too, they do a lot of like mystery and noir kind of stuff. Like, there's some really cool shit Titan Comics does that other publishers, including Image, by the way, don't do. So I would definitely check out more Titan Comics work if y'all haven't already. They're really cool.
Sexy noir.
Sexy noir. That's like half of what they do, Chris. Only half.
Man, I immediately thought that's a comic Grabs is gonna like right there. That's a comic that Pounce is gonna like right there.
That's a good book.
Well, thank you so much, Chris, again for coming on. Thanks for all the kind words. It's just an honor to have you on here. I'm glad we could find a time. You're always welcome back on the show anytime. You're part of the nerdy neighborhood. Chase, thanks for hosting with me again. It's always so wonderful chatting with you, having you in the Discord. Seeing all the little drawings you've been doing lately. I've been enjoying those. Those are very entertaining.
I'm trying to teach myself how to draw. Like, I feel how to do pretty decently on a tablet, but now I'm trying to, like, my tablet's shattered. So I'm trying to, like, teach myself to draw freehand. But, I mean, I think they're okay. I'm no artist, but I'm surprised with myself.
Right? That's kind of the fun thing too. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Obviously, check out Chris and David the Pouch at Lost in Comics. If you haven't already, for some weird reason, get there. They're a huge part of the nerdy neighborhood as well. And be sure to like, share, and subscribe to their channel and to this one. You know, all that really cheesy but super important stuff that helps all of us grow together as nerdy people trying to just podcast and have fun. And we will see you guys next time in the nerdy neighborhood. Have a great night, everybody.